podcast, Picks and Perspective with Chris Johnson.
Episode 16 with my girl Yvette Young of Covet. We talk about all kinds of craziness that happens in life, touring around the world and trying to be a good human. Listen to her music on the Players Pick podcast playlist on Spotify. It was all a really good conversation today, though. I mean, I'm glad that it flows as easy as it does.
It always felt like it does.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
That's right. Yeah, glad it's not like forced. Like, do you like trees?
So, this weather we're having.
So, Nam.
I mean, did you see the Strandberg? I mean, they make a telly version now. I don't know if you know. Well, this is Players Pick Podcast, episode number 16, with Yvette Young of Covet.
Hello.
Hello. Yeah, so Yvette doesn't play. Yvette, you don't play with guitar picks. So why are we having you on the Guitar Pick Players Pick podcast?
Maybe just for some another view.
Yeah, well, this is, so the subtitle is Picks and Perspective with Chris Johnson, right? So,
perfect.
So I think it would be interesting to hear from you. Number one, did you ever, when you first started playing guitar, did somebody try to like give you a pick and be like, no, it's like this? Or did you just like not listen to anybody and just go based off of piano? And like, what was your experience in the early days?
So I got into playing guitar just by listening to a bunch of bands that I liked at the time, and I never really watched them play or anything. Like, I guess I saw videos, but it's not like I studied guitar videos and like, you know, their technique with a pick and stuff. I remember I first started finger picking on acoustic, and I tried to use a pick at first, but I was like, oh, but like, wait a minute, I could have more polyphony if I just threw the pick away, not like in the garbage, but like just like put it to the side and like, you know, used my fingers independently like I would play a piano or something, or even a violin, like everything. I guess you have a bow there, but like, yeah, I felt like I could have more polyphony and more voices going on, and at the time I didn't have a band or anything, so I just wanted to sound full by myself.
Mm-hmm.
So I found that I actually sounded fuller and I could have more voices and harmonies going on if I just did that. So naturally I was just drawn to using my fingers instead of a pick. And then I was like, gosh, I should probably use a pick, like, just because that's, you know, it's a good skill to have. Sure. And I like learned a couple of songs with it, but then I was just like, man, it just doesn't feel as fluid as my fingers. Like, it feels like I'm translating it to this piece of plastic and then the music is coming out there. Like, I find that it's just way more smoother, and it feels like a more direct translation of my thoughts and what I hear when I just use my fingers.
That's cool. That's fair enough.
Yeah, but I mean, I wish I could, you know.
But if you spent the time and applied yourself, I'm sure you'd figure out all kinds of things.
Yeah, I do, like, for recording purposes, I'll use a pick. Like, sometimes we have tremolo picking background sections, or sometimes for double tracking chords, if I want a more, like, jangly, kind of, like, harsh attack sound, I'll use a pick. Mm-hmm. But I kind of like, also, I feel like I have more tonal control when I use my fingers. Like, I can, like, hold back. I can dig in if I want to dig in. So it's nice.
That's cool. And well, when you did try to use a pick a few times, do you remember what kind of pick it was? Or
it was actually the Tortex. It was the green.
Oh, green Tortex?
Yeah, I think it was 0. I don't remember the.
It's 88s.
It's 88, yeah.
Yeah. Was it the standard shape or was it the triangle?
Triangle.
Okay.
Yeah. But, you know, at the time it's not like I knew picks, so I wasn't like, that's the pick for me. I was just like, I tried like a V pick once, so it was cool. I didn't like that they were see-through, because then if you lose it, then
you couldn't.
Good luck.
Harder to find it. Yeah.
Camouflage.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Do you? Did you like? When did you start playing guitar? I guess. Well, how old were you?
I was. I think I was like 20 when I first started playing acoustic. Like 19 or 20. I think I was 19 going on 20 that year. And I was. I started playing just because I needed some therapy when I was in the hospital and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I was sick, and I wanted to teach myself a skill when I was there, and it was like super rewarding and empowering to be able to do something with my hands, you know, and like
Sure.
teach myself something new. I felt like that was a really big confidence boost, which was really good for me back then. So I started that when I was 19 or 20, and then I started electric guitar when I was like 20, I want to say 22, something like that, 21 or 22.
Wow.
So yeah, I started on piano and violin. That's my bread and butter.
Yeah. I know you have like super ultra proficiency on those instruments as well. It seems like.
I guess I think having really strict parents and really strict Russian teachers
Oof.
did the thing.
Man. Yeah, so some people respond to that strict thing like in a way that you do, where you're like, okay, great, I'm gonna do it and learn the thing. And then like for me, I would just like nope. I'd just say nope, and just like
No.
not do it. I'm just like, oh, okay, yeah, if you're gonna tell me what to do, like I'm just no thanks. And so I'm just doing it my way. Like if you want, you know, like total like contrarian kind of anti-conformist. Like in my mindset in that way. But so it's interesting. I'm interested in like your side of it, because I don't know what it's like to like go, okay, cool, sure, yeah, I'll study and do the thing.
I wasn't more like, okay, sure, yeah, cool. It was more like, not to bring things in a dark place, but like if I didn't win a competition, I'd like get beat and stuff. So
Oof.
it's like, you know, very like, it's like an unhealthy. On one hand, I'm grateful because it gave me a great work ethic, and it gave me great discipline for if I have to practice something and get it down. And it gave me the sense of urgency. Like whenever I get assigned something or when I'm working on a song, I feel this tension inside me, and I'm like, I cannot rest until I finish this song, or I cannot rest until I can play this smoothly. I never liked going into things not prepared, and I think that mindset, that perfectionist kind of like really driven mindset that my parents instilled in me, that has helped me to this day. But on the other hand, it gave me really unhealthy perfectionism, which is part of why I landed in the hospital. And I think it taught me to not really enjoy things unless they were exactly the way I wanted them. So for the longest time, playing live was always a disappointment for me, because I'm like, no, I know how it could have sounded, but this wasn't right, the monitoring was bad, blah 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 blah, my pedal, like, you know, I would just pick it apart. But I think like one cool thing touring has taught me is to just relax and accept that not every night's going to sound the same. There are some things you simply can't control. Like, if there's feedback or something, it's not my fault. Like, it's just, like,
Right.
you know, or if the power cuts, I didn't cause that, and there's nothing I can do. So there's no use getting worked up over things that are in my control. And then I also learned that if you recover from something like that, like all your pedals dying, and like, you know, you do something crazy and you recover from that, it's like even cooler.
It is way cool.
It is way cooler. People would like want to see you fuck up, and then they want to see you like land on your 2 feet.
You handled that really well. Like yeah, like you come through it, like
not get frazzled.
Yeah, I have similar experience like teaching yoga at times too, because like it's very easy. Like I'm essentially a solo performer. I'm like the DJ that comes with the music, and I'm a public speaker.
Yeah.
And I'm an aerobic instructor, essentially, a hype man, and a tiny bit of a therapist.
I guess.
You know, like
always comes with
like
the
there's
job.
there's an element of like, I don't know, there's just like a lot of things wrapped into one, depending on what you choose to take on, you know, as the teacher. But just like literally this last Sunday, it was last class. And there becomes a point where you're saying stuff and you're teaching, you're like bring the class to a certain place, and then because it comes almost like fluidly, like when you're playing, like sometimes you just get into a place where you're like, it's not like you're not thinking, you're out of the mind.
Yeah, that's my favorite place.
It's the best, right? It could be the flow state, could just be like just a nice like floating place, and then you stop to try to analyze, like, what did I just say, or what did I just do? And then it's like almost like poof, like you're like, I kind of remember elements of it, but I occasionally have to speak up and like, okay, did we just where are we going next? Because like, did we do that on the right side and we have to do it on the left side now? And so the humility of like dealing with like a faux pas or a problem or something, and coming out the other side is always like, I mean, it's kind of the recipe for the hero. It's a recipe for like, you know, like a classic story.
It's
like
much more relatable.
Yeah.
I feel like I was talking about this with my friend the other day. I feel like I don't understand people who pretend, okay, I do understand. But people, I guess I always think about people who like want to like create this illusion that they have everything together and that they're perfect and their life is perfect and they're infallible golden gods. Like, you know, that to me that is such a scary place to be, because everyone's gonna be like, oh, you think you're so perfect, well, you messed up, and they're gonna like hyper scrutinize everything you do, and like, you know, if you do mess up, God forbid that gets out, because like, you know. So I think the way at least I run whatever music thing that I have going on is I like just being like very transparent with, I don't understand this, I figured this out this way, I didn't have lessons or anything, I just kind of like trial and error, I don't actually really know what I'm doing, but like, you know, this, I kind of just figure stuff out and fumble around until it happens, and like, I find that I don't feel any pressure to like maintain and uphold an illusion of like perfection or an illusion of mastery, because like at the end of the day it's like nobody ever masters anything, nobody's ever like perfect, everyone's gonna fuck up. So I'd much rather just be like relatable and just be open about like things like, okay, like there's been a few times where I start a song in the wrong tuning and it sounds like ass, and I'm like, what the fuck, like I can't transpose this on the fly, like I'm not a robot. So I like stopped the song, and in the mic I'm like, well, fucking idiot here didn't tune her guitar right. And usually people are understanding. You'd have to be like really an asshole to not understand that sometimes you mess up. Right. So yeah.
I like that attitude. I mean, I feel similar in that I know I have friends, creative friends that like musically will hear something in their head and they're like, oh, I've got to write this out. And occasionally I kind of have something like that too. Yeah. But I've personally always been one that's like, I don't know, I just touch the guitar, I pick it up, and I'm like, okay, that sounds cool, and I build on that. I don't really know where I'm going. Yeah. I'm just kind of like one thing at a time. It's kind of like if I start drawing, I'm not even sure what I'm drawing, and then I'm like, oh, wait, that looks like this, and now it's going to be that. Yeah. You know, but there's an element of openness and not having to have it all figured out, thankfully, because it's a big burden to carry, to have it all figured out, and then to have to come in and exactify like all these things in a way. Like initially you said that like you're feeling, oh, I didn't like live shows initially because I knew how it had to be and it was never that. Yeah. But then you started changing your perception and what your expectations were, it sounds like.
I don't even know if it was a conscious shift. I think like almost it was like I was forced to just start to be more adaptable, and by just going through disappointment so much, I was just like, you know what, like I guess I still had fun. I had a blast. The crowd energy was good. So these days I much more care if like I was like locked in or feeling it, you know? Like it doesn't matter that like this one technical thing went wrong. If it just flowed right, if it just felt like natural and like I love shows where I forget I'm even playing a show. I'm like just feeling the music. I know it's so cliche, like just feel it, man. Like
no, that's the best. Man. That's like, why it's a cliche.
yeah, but you know.
Yeah, man, just like feel it, bro.
Yeah, just feel the music. Let it like, you know, enter you. Yeah. Yeah, I feel like that's when I think I have a successful show. Yeah. And when people are excited no matter what, I realize like I've had shows where I thought it was a disaster, and then afterwards people come meet me and I'm all in a mood. Mm-hmm. And they're like, good job. I'm like, shut up, you're a liar. No, I don't say that. But
yeah,
I'm
but
like,
that's how you feel.
In my head, I'm like, bullshit. Like, you know.
Like, whatever, you're just saying that.
Yeah, you don't have to make me feel better right now. Like, I think I've literally sat there, like, explaining everything that went wrong. Like, I was explaining, like, my delay or something to someone who just said, nice set, I really enjoyed it.
You're like, yeah, but my delay, like, here, if you want to come over here and see, let's see, this knob should have been here, and that button was supposed to be pushed, but I didn't push it because I'm a big dummy, and I don't know how to play guitar.
Because usually I have this set to this, but, like, somehow in transit, I think it got moved over, and, like, I end up just telling them the story that they don't give a fuck about.
Yvette, I just said good set. I thought you were wonderful, and we enjoyed seeing you do your thing. Yeah. Oh yeah, but Okay. Did I tell you about the delay pedal?
Yeah, it's pretty funny. So I stopped doing that. I was just like, well, I'm just wasting my breath, and like this person doesn't have time to hear me. I'm like punishing them. Like.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I've done the same thing. Especially when I first started playing live. I remember I was always making all these excuses because we'd be playing with really great other bands, and like, gosh, like just I felt like diminutive. I felt small.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you guys are like professionals, and we feel like a garage band. Like we're just started. Like it felt.
Yeah.
And so
yeah.
like anything I could say. Oh yeah, well it was cool, but you know everything was wrong.
Yeah.
And they're like no, like we like the spirit of it. It's cool. Like look like you got some promise. Maybe you should play more shows and just play more.
Yeah.
How about you just do that and have fun?
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh.
And then through having bad shows, like you just learn how to recover smoothly more. I feel.
Mm-hmm.
I think I've experienced. I mean, probably not every problem. I'm probably going to experience way more problems in the future, and I look forward to them. But yeah, I feel like I've been through a lot of weird scenarios that were out of my control, and it just makes me relax more. And then when I relax more, I can have a better time on stage. I remember playing in front of a band that I really admire, and it was probably one of the worst shows of my life because I was renting all the gear. It wasn't my own, so it wasn't comfortable, and I didn't know how to dial in the amp the way I liked it. So it was just, and it was really dark, and I couldn't see anything. I hate when venues like don't turn on lights and then they have fog machines, so it's like literally like every obstacle.
It's like asking for you to like fall off the stage and like to break something.
There's like a thing spraying battery acid in my eyes, like you know, like yeah. Okay, that hasn't happened
yet.
But you never know.
Okay.
Yeah. It's yeah. But it was just a bad show. I like was so sloppy and I couldn't see it. And then afterwards, I just couldn't even be cool around the band I really admired because I was just so sad. But you know, they were nice about it. They were really gracious, and it wasn't the end of the world. So
that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
I mean, that's part of life, though. Like we have to. I'm just like always impressed when people have something to say on the instrument, or in their craft, whatever it is. If it's writing or acting or producing or whatever. But in music, when because you obviously have it. Like I mean, like whether you're even despite all the heavy like harsh training and stuff that you endured, like to get to the proficiency that you're at, like. There's obviously a connection here, and like you have things to say with your instrument. Like you have a welling up, and then you gotta express it.
Yeah.
And so it's a courageous thing to do, is to bring that to the world, and see like, hey, I don't know, I mean, I was feeling this, and people will go, oh yeah, like I'm into it. Oh, okay, cool, and to get the connection from the onlookers and from the people and from fans and friends, like it's a repetitive thing. I see people at high levels even that have great careers, and like everybody's told them that they're great, but they still like find a way, like, oh, I don't know, is this cool? Like I did this new thing, and there's still an element of courage to like just be willing to express. Yeah,
I think for me, this brings it, like, I guess one common topic I find myself discussing with my friends who do this too is like, I guess authenticity and I guess being genuine with what you do, and also I guess a lot of them feel like they're scared because they start making art they start curating the art they make to the tastes of their demographic or to who they want to like make this art for.
Oh, yeah.
So it's tricky because I can't fault them for that because it's like you gotta be successful somehow, and you gotta like hustle, and part of what makes someone successful is being able to identify like what is like trendy or what's like doing well right now, and to like adapt to that is like, it takes someone who's pretty like versatile,
Sure.
But the one downside of that I see is that you end up kind of being more you're more vulnerable because you're not doing it for yourself anymore. So then you start having to justify things to other people. But like for me, one thing that's kept me sane so far, and I'm like very like I'm noob level on this journey, but like one thing that I know I always want to be true is like I want to be I want to love what I'm making.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not making it for anyone else. It's a very hedonistic thing for me, making art and music. Like, of course, I do commissions. I will write solos for people, but still it has to have me in it, and it has to be something that I 100% back and that I will proudly show people.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to have 1 ounce of doubt. So I feel like when you start making art to please other people or for like other people's tastes, one thing is that you become unsure because your vision and your voice is diluted by so many other things.
I love that you bring that up. That's a tricky situation because you said one of the things you just said. You said you got to be successful.
Yeah. Well, you don't have to be successful, but you gotta. Everyone would like that.
Would like to be successful, but I was going to say back up and say, well, it depends on the definition of success, right? Like too. So if the type of success you're looking for is like, I want X amount of followers, I want this type of things, I want to play these kind of shows,
money.
I want to make this type of, I want to have this type of living.
Yeah.
And people, and this is, the world's full of it, right?
Yeah.
We see that like there's big rooms at record labels full of people trying to put together a song for this artist or that artist so that this whole team of people can profit from it.
Yeah.
Not just the person, like not just the artist, but all these people. And so they're trying to, they're trying to like piggyback and like make something that sounds familiar, right? It's in a familiar realm. It's not necessarily being art at that point. It's an art to create something that is that catchy and interesting and in line with the current trend.
Yeah.
There is a quote unquote art to that, but it's not what I would deem as actual art at that point. Whereas what you're describing, it's like, no, it's something that I need to feel connected to, something that wells up from me, and that it's my response to whatever's being presented. And versus,
I think it's very detached art for the sake, like it's art made for the sake of consumption rather than for the sake of appreciation or for the sake of accomplishing something of depth. Like, I think it's easy to make art follow trends so that it's like readily consumed. Like, people will hear it and it's like already guaranteed that like these people will like it. This demographic will like it. And sometimes that detached way of making art, maybe some people don't care about feeling like they have to be attached to it. Maybe they're more business people. But I think, I don't know, I always feel weird calling myself an artist or whatever, but like...
Oh my god, but if anybody could be called an artist, I'm pretty fucking sure you can be called an artist.
Well...
that's just my opinion. I mean,
thank you. Yeah, I guess I come from a more, like, like, if I make money from this, great. That's so cool. It's so cool that I can live off of this. Like, it's really special, and I never, for one day, take it for granted. But, I'm not ever going to do this because I want to be financially successful. What's so special and sacred about art, whatever I make, to me, is that I do it because I love it and I'm invested in it, and it makes me feel really good about myself. And it's like my source of confidence. Like, I taught myself guitar, and that makes me feel so good. Like, I'm proud of myself. And it's something that's not superficial either. It's not like my appearance, it won't fade. Like, when you get a skill, I mean, granted, right now, a semi could hit us and I could lose my arms, and then I can't play guitar anymore. But as long as that doesn't happen, I will be able to have this skill until I die. So it's like guaranteed, and it's like sacred to me. So I don't want to ever do it for the wrong reasons. And I don't think, I scratched that. I'm not going to use the word wrong reasons, because I don't think any reason could necessarily be wrong unless your reason is I want to hurt people with this, like,
unless it has to do with violence.
Violence, or like you're destroying something. But I don't want to do it for reasons that don't align with my personal philosophy or my personal values and who I am as a person.
What do you think about disruptive art then? Like, I'm curious because like like Banksy, or like art that can cause trouble with like governmental, like there's flash mobs and different types of artistic expression that is kind of in protest.
Yeah. I think as long as you're not like actually inflicting like harm or creating some form of terrorism, I think like you should be allowed to express your opinions and your views and disrupt things. Sometimes I think certain things need to be disrupted. Like there's this art movement, the Situationist International. A guy DeBoer, he's like the main guy behind it all, and that whole thing was about like disrupting like daily routine and like when things become very
Who is this?
Guy DeBoer. The Situationist International. It was like a French movie. I believe it's French. I think it's French. Sorry if it's not French.
Okay, we'll
it's
look
like
it up.
Italian or something.
All right.
But yeah, I'm pretty sure it's French, and we're all about like breaking out of like routine and like disrupting your habits and stuff, and like refreshing your outlook on something, like allowing yourself to be guided not by just habit, but like more about what you're naturally curious or naturally drawn towards. So I think that's like a cool way to view stuff, like to be really in tune with like what you're interested in, like where certain things are taking you.
I love that too.
Yeah.
Well, I think that it as we were talking a lot earlier, like we were talking about just the natural tendency when we were talking about boundaries earlier, but there's an element of us making the little decisions in life that we don't necessarily see as boundaries, but by being who you are, using your particular intuition and like following your particular bliss into interesting things, these are like they do act as boundaries. You repel certain things in your life and you attract certain things into your life.
Of course. And synchronicity is like such an important thing to me in everything I do. Like if I ever am making a decision, like whether I want to work with someone but something is just rubbing me the wrong way, like I just feel morally conflicted or something, then I know to not pursue it. Or like if I'm doing something and I find myself not enjoying it but I'm just doing it for money, you know? Like that's like a little bit of dissonance there that I sometimes I choose to brush it aside just because it's like, yeah, okay, I need to live, like I need to survive,
sure,
so I need to make money for now. But like if it's something that I really don't feel good about, like it should go without saying, but sometimes people still end up
right. Like there's a certain barometer, and if it goes past, like it goes to a point where like, well, this isn't like my ideal scenario, but I understand like it's a work for hire, so to speak, and it's not against my moral code necessarily. Then you can still accept cash for that, but like but if it goes past the moral, ethical barometer in your life, and you're like, it just doesn't rub, like then it's gotta go.
It can even be something like it can even not be a moral thing for me. I've had so many instances where it's someone who just doesn't understand my vision, or someone who doesn't share it. So it's not even like they're wrong or they're bad or anything. It's more like, man, we're going we want separate things, and it's like this art, if we work together, the art is gonna be very confused. It's not going to be a focused thing. And sometimes it's good to have different voices and stuff. Like my band, everyone kind of contributes their own voice. Like I write the structures and the songs, but then everyone throws their own voice into it. And I like that. It makes it unique. It makes it I'm not just cloning and replicating myself. And it's fun. But then there's sometimes where it's like, it's just not going to coexist. Like there's no way you can like make this
a cohesive thing.
Or like sometimes it just never grows. Like even with like working with people who want to like manage your art or something, like sometimes there's just not synchronicity there. They see something different. So
management, that's always that's a
tricky one.
That's a tricky one, because like a bad manager can be so detrimental.
Nobody tells you what good management is. That's something I feel like you have to learn. And people want different things out of management, too. Some people prefer more hands-off kind of person, but some people who don't have someone putting a fire under their ass, they need someone who's more, like, gonna push them,
Yeah, like, it's like they need a personal assistant almost, more so that kind of acts and does some managerial things too. But
and I'm realizing, you know, it's not always the most important, but like, you know, I've had issues where people write emails for me or something, and then they're really harsh and blunt and stuff, and just kind of rude, almost. I'm dismissive, and for my brand or whatever, someone representing me, I don't like that. I want it to be like at least polite and respectful of the other person's time. So that's like another thing where if someone doesn't value that, you can't fault them for not valuing that, but I want someone representing me who's going to actually be my voice, you know? Maybe not like 100% me, but like at least embodies the same set of values.
Makes sense.
Interpersonally.
Of course. It's got to be an extension of you.
Yeah.
If it's your enterprise, if it's your project.
Yeah, and sometimes it's out of my control too. Sometimes I'm forced in situations where it's for political reasons. I have to work with this person or that person.
Sure.
But, you know, as long as I stay focused on, I know that this is who I am.
Yeah.
And hopefully people won't judge me for representing this temporarily.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, and you've been doing a lot of world touring, like in the last couple of years.
Yeah?
What's been some of your favorite places that you've been?
Oh, man. This is so cliche, but Japan is so sick.
It's okay.
It's not even about me, like being Japan obsessed or whatever. It's more like those shows were so nice. Like, we were driven everywhere. We think, like, you know, it was with Polyphia. We had, like, vans take us places, and they set up our gear for us. And so we had sound checks. We had downtime. What is downtime on tour? Yeah, so it was incredible in that sense, and we were fed, and it was easy, just a couple of shows, you know, not a whole month. You can't really do a whole month tour in Japan.
Yeah, I guess not. You'd have to take your real sweet time and space it out. And
yeah.
I don't know. Was there is there anything that you've kind of like learned along the way that you might impart to anyone that like just in life or in the business along the way that's happened in the last few years? Yeah.
Like you mean touring worldwide?
Yeah, just being just being you and being in the world, going places and doing things.
Let me think. What's I guess like a tour pro tip is if you have to ship gear overseas. We learned this the hard way, but if you have to like ship, we recently did a UK tour. We shipped our pedal boards. Yeah, I guess we shipped our boards with all the pedals and our guitars. Wait, no, we didn't ship them. Sorry, we checked them in at the airport.
Okay.
And we got charged over $1,000 for both ways. So we lost so much money there. And someone told me, I think it was like my friend. He played in like Minus the Bear, so he did his fair share of like touring. He was like, "Yo, just get like a press deal or whatever, so you can, I guess, in advance just get a discounted rate for that." So I guess if
like a press credential.
Yeah, I think he called it like a press. It's just like a deal for people traveling with a lot of like gear and stuff.
Oh.
Yeah, I forgot the formal name for it. It's like slipping my mind right now, but you can get a deal for that. So that's just like a touring pro tip if you want discounted stuff. Discounted rates for checking in your baggage.
Yeah, okay.
In terms of a more deeper thing, learning. Okay, like a lot of conflicts arise on the road, I guess, with people. And one thing I feel like that makes bands stay together longer. Of course, we've only been together for like 4 or 5 years, but I think
still a long time. Yeah,
longevity in a band, I think, is when you guys communicate. So we all are really good at checking in with each other, and when someone has a problem, I think we speak up and we work things out. And in Japan, we had a couple of problems, and we all had discussions, and I think we all ended up being a lot closer after that. So I think on the road, you're gonna have fights with people. You're gonna be at each other's throats sometimes, but I think that's not an issue if you can put aside yourself and your own ego and like hear people out and then like work together. Then you're golden. Otherwise, I see bands where nobody actually likes each other in the band, and they're just there working. I can't imagine doing that.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
I couldn't sit in a car with someone I hated.
Talk about like a scenario that's against like your internal, barometer. Like how can you be in a band where you're constantly at war or at odds with the other members?
And it's one thing to get annoyed, like that just happens.
Sure.
Just from living with the same people forever. But I think to have like secret resentment, which I some of my friends have that in their bands, like they just never talk about it, and I'm just like, yo, it's gonna be like a sore.
It's gonna keep building.
Or a thorn in your guys' side until you pull that shit out.
Yeah.
And sometimes it takes multiple attempts, but yeah. I guess my tip is to communicate, guys.
Yeah. That's a good tip. That's like, I think that's a tip for most relationships.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, just working, if anyone's wants to run or manage something, like being a good boss, that's like a topic that I really like discussing, because there's many types of bosses. There's bosses who are just like, I am authoritarian, it's my way or no way. And if anyone, they kind of use like fear tactics, so then that can work, but then I don't think anyone's really loyal and no one actually wants to be there. You're just like paying them, But then there's bosses who are more like, they'll hear their employees out, or they'll hear people out, and everyone works collectively and brainstorms. And the difference is, what makes them the boss is they know where they're not willing to compromise. But it's an open discussion. Like, I think I prefer that tactic, because when people are allowed to inject their own ideas and experiment with things that they're naturally interested in, I think that they feel more invested in the final product, and they'll be there even if the pay is not great. They'll be there just because they're having a good time and they get a chance to express themselves, and it's fun for everyone, and no one's like shaking in fear. People feel relaxed.
I think that goes back to another conversation earlier of what like why if everybody's not excited to be there and willing to be there, then like why are we putting ourselves through this, right?
Yeah.
So like, if you can either choose to kind of communicate your way through it and try to find a middle ground, or maybe you shouldn't be holding on to this and find a different place to be altogether. In the sense that like I've had plenty of friends that are in bands that just like they infight all the time. They're just always fighting, like always. Like part of it's like kind of joking as they're loading in and loading out, and they're like hostile humor.
Yeah.
But then like as they get drunk and then they
real.
They play the show, and there's like even like shit talking on the stage, and like whoa. And then afterwards they proceed to get drunker and they want to fight, and like, oh my god,
when you're in that mindset,
what's going on?
You should never drink when you feel hostile or something, because it just brings out the asshole part. This is coming from someone who doesn't drink a lot, but I know that the few times I've taken a drink when I have anything sad, I'm just a crying mess. Like I'm just like so sad, so it just heightens like those bad emotions,
amplifies it.
Amplifies it. So I couldn't imagine being on the road with people that I had like secret resentment towards, and I'm the kind of person that can't hold that shit in anyway. Like I wear my heart on my sleeve. I am really bad at like pretending to like someone. So I think it's important to just like leave your fucking, I don't know, ego at home or whatever, and like it's just so cheesy. Yeah,
but there's truth to that. There's a reason why cliches sometimes are cliches, right? There's some truth in it.
Yeah, definitely. I think I mean, of course, it would be really funny if after I did this podcast, I go on this upcoming tour and it just fucking ends right there and my band ends. Then this would be a very ironic.
There's a blowout on stage.
Yeah.
Like just like, and you're like, that's it, I quit.
Yeah.
And drop the mic. Just rock.
That'd be really funny.
Like middle of a 30-day sold out tour, just flies home back. Just like,
it's like
that shit has happened. I've heard about shit like that.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I get it, because things can get more hostile by the day. Like sometimes when the two people have a conflict, or it can be any amount of people. When there's like any conflict between any person on a tour package, everyone's involved, because you don't get privacy.
No.
Like you can't like, when you're in the van, you can't be like, oh, excuse us, we're gonna just like go into this tent and like have our discussion. Like there's none of that. You're out there and everyone's affected. Everyone starts having a bad time. So sometimes I get why people would end tours, because it's just beyond repair. Do you find yourself fairly at ease or at home on the road, or is it a tough thing for you to be on the road? I appreciate different. I'm gonna sneeze. I think. Okay, I'm not gonna sneeze. Sorry, I felt it coming. I think I enjoy parts of it. I enjoy being in a new place every day and like exploring, because it kind of takes me out of my habit, And one thing that was great for my recovery from an eating disorder was traveling, just because I don't have a chance to become fixated on my OCD shit or to be fixated on what I'm eating. I'm literally trying to figure out how to live in this new place, trying to adapt to their rhythm. So it kind of like leaves me, it pulls the floor out from underneath me figuratively, and I'm just like, whoa, like, so I don't have time to be like, well, I'm gonna eat X amount of calories and like fixate on my weight today, so there's that. So I think being on the road is good for my mental health, but it is also very bad for my mental health in some ways, because I have no place to call home. Like, I don't know, I'm rarely home these days, so sometimes I kind of don't feel like I can get attached to anything too much, because I'm like, I'm only gonna, like, making friends, like, I'm only gonna see my friend once a month, if I'm lucky. So I have to find people who are cool if not really having me around, so that kind of sucks. So I'm lonely a lot, just because, you don't get to see someone constantly.
Right.
And then talking to people every night. Some people don't do it. I'm at a level where I could not do it, but I want to do it because people paid money to be there and they're like all excited to like meet us. So I want to put myself out there for people because I want to show them that I'm so appreciated. Some of y'all drove like 4 hours to come to the show. Some of you flew from different countries or different states. Like, I really appreciate you being here and I want to give you my time. But with an attitude and mentality like that, I get spread thin so easily. And there's this one instance where there's a line of people. I was in, I think, Tampa, and there's a line of people talking to me, and I went through all of them. I was like near the end, and then this guy came up to me and he started talking to me about restaurants, every restaurant in town, why the restaurant was good, and like what I should try on the menu. Harmless, so harmless. But this guy was in depth and thorough about what I should have at these restaurants, and it was like, I was at the end of the line. There were like 4 more people. They had been waiting a while, so I was like empathizing for them. I was like, I'm so sorry you've been so I kept on like making eye contact, like, I see you there. This guy's telling me about empanadas, but I see you. Like, and like I was trying to find an opportunity to like cut him off, but it just wasn't happening. I'd segue like, yeah, I'll try that for sure later tonight. I gotta talk to he just wasn't getting it. So I literally started crying. Like, I was like listening. I gave up, and then I looked him in the eyes, and he was like, and their mole is amazing, like, you gotta try, like, and I was just like, yeah, mole, and I started crying, and then he finally stopped talking. He's like, are you okay? And I was just like, yeah, I'm really tired, I need to go. So I like ran off, and I just cried in the van, just because I was talked at for so long, for like an hour.
Oh my god, I can only imagine.
And I can only listen, like, I always want to authentically listen to people too. I don't want to just be like, oh yeah, sure, cool, nice, like, haha, for sure.
Right.
Just say like empty filler stuff. And I definitely do. So I'm like, wow, that's wild. Like,
no, I know you as somebody that is an active listener and honestly wanting to be engaged in wherever you're at and with whoever you're with at. Like, that's my experience of you. So
yeah, it's important to me.
That takes energy.
It does, and I'm not an extrovert by nature. I can put it on. So I guess that's my tour tip, is if you're ever needing to escape a conversation, just start crying. Because they'll stop. Just
start bawling.
Just cry.
And run away.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm fine.
I'll try the guacamole.
I hope the mole is not too rich. I don't know. I mean, maybe. We'll see.
So yeah, that's the stressful thing about tours, is you get socially and personally spread so thin. Not to mention, for someone who's like really sensitive, empathetic like me, I have to adapt to so many different personalities.
Oh.
And that's like, you as a former A&R guy, or like still A&R guy, you know, you have to be sensitive to the nuances of how people respond to different things.
100%.
And you have to know, like, around this person, they don't respond well to this kind of authority, so you have to do it this way. Around this person, you can't, you know, they like it more if you're blunt, but then you also have to keep this in mind, and blah,
These
blah,
people
blah.
want to be kind of told what to do because they don't know what to do. And
this person you have to be so careful around because they are insecure about this, and you have to, like, cater to that and, like, hold their hand for this. It's, like, exhausting.
And you basically just nailed my job.
Yeah.
Like, we basically almost do the same thing.
Yeah.
But different. Yeah.
And that's if you care.
Yeah.
Some people don't care. They'll be one way around everyone. But I feel like part of what I like to do when I work with people is I like to just be accommodating to what they're comfortable with. And, like, I think that's how I make friends, too. Because I like to make friends on the road. And that's how people want to work with me, is, like, I'm sensitive to that, I think. I hope people want to work with me.
No, apparently. I mean, I think people do. I mean, I have a similar thing. I mean, my mom was a people pleaser. Still is a bit of a people pleaser, and that's like, and has a big heart. And we were talking about how we emulate our parents and certain things, you know, and like, it's interesting because I find that, like, I was really good at, like, service jobs early on. Like, I would stand at a desk or at a countertop and be like, "Hey, how's it going today, sir? Blah blah. I'll run, and, like, because I want everybody to like me. I want to, like, make sure everybody gets their needs met. But man, like, the level of energy to sustain that peppy, that whole thing, is a lot. And there's a point in which you cross where you're like, I can't be authentic in this way anymore. I have to run away crying. Like, I have to, like, I have to bow out. And I've spent a lot of time with Devin Townsend too, and, like, I've seen that guy work like autograph lines that are just so long,
Relenting.
Unrelenting, long lines. And, you know, I can see him getting, you know, halfway or 3/4, and there's some sort of punishing person that's just like, yeah, and what about, and can you, and what about, and can you, and he's like, oh, buddy, it's like, and I already know he's tired before he started the show.
Yeah.
You know, and so, like, the fact that he's at that point, I'm like, oh, boy, you know, like, seeing that place. And so there's a point where you cross over and you can't be authentic anymore in that way, so you have to be authentic, and you're excusing yourself.
Yeah, of course.
And finding the place that you can go recoup.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
oh my God, I'll never forget. There was a point in the last tour we did, US tour, where everyone's morale was really low because there was some conflict going on, and band members just going through some personal stuff, which is totally fine. But we were all so dejected at this show, and then I had to do an interview, and I remember me and my drummer were, like, literally holding each other, like, crying, and then these interviewers showed up, and they're like, "We're here to do the interview," and then I was like, they were about to call it off, but I guess, like, my bandmates and I were about to call it off, but then I was like, no, they've been waiting for hours to interview me. I'm gonna do this interview. So I, like, went to the bathroom, like, my mascara was, like, running. I looked like fucking, like, you know, DeviantArt, like, goth model. Like, you know, like, I was like, I wiped my eyes, and then I went back, and I was like, hello. And then their questions were, this is the most absurd interview, and I hope it's out there somewhere. Yeah. Because me and my drummer, my bass player, opted out. We're doing this interview, and we're talking about Super Smash, and I'm just, like, eyes welled up with tears, probably bloodshot with, like, makeup smeared, and I'm just like, I like to play Kirby because, like, this is, like, just, like, so absurd, like, oh my God. And then they're talking about, like, uplifting and why, like, things are, like, music is uplifting and so powerful, and we're just, like, crying in this interview. And that's an example of where I probably should have just been like, I can't do this. Not today, yeah. But because I was trying to please them, I was like, they've waited so long. I feel so bad. I'm going to do this right now, even though I really can't. Like, so, yeah. And also, I'm always afraid of being selfish and stuff like that. But, yeah. But interviews out there, you can watch me cry online somewhere. I might have to look it up. Might have to look that up and check it out.
I guess the other thing, I have to say, one of the things that is wonderful about being a friend of yours, being friends, is that you are a constant music seeker too. Like, I know that you're always like looking for and like listening to new bands and listening to new music, and you share freely. You're like, oh guys, I got a new playlist here, or I'm listening to this band there, and there's been a handful of bands where I'm just like, I would have never probably listened to or found them just unless I listened to your playlist, you know, and stuff. So I'm curious, like, this is one of my favorite things about the podcast too, is to ask what you listen to right now, and like, do you have any music that's like especially not that well known that we can shout out right now? And like,
yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I really like this. I've been kind of so how I get with music is I find something I love, and then I'm like obsessed with it, and it's all I want to listen to for like a week. Especially, I'll just let stuff passively play. Like, I'll go through a playlist and passively let them play while I paint.
Mm-hmm.
If something catches my ear, I immediately stop what I'm doing. That's how I know it's something I want to hear, because it makes me literally stop in my tracks and just listen. So what band that did that to me is funny, is a lot of my friends recommended this band Porches to me, and I was always like, alright, you hipster fucks, like, I'll check it out someday.
Sure, whenever.
Like, yeah, right?
Yeah.
But, so I, like, never gave him a proper listen, just because it was, like, everyone was like, they're so sick. And then I was painting, and then this song Country came on by them, and it's just very wonderfully synthy and minimal. And it's, like, open spaces, and his voice is just really melancholy sounding, but it's, like, beautiful. I remember I was just, like, painting, and I stopped, and I just like listened, and then I felt overcome with emotion. So then after that I discovered their other stuff, which is actually quite dancey, but it has this like somber feel to it. It's kind of like it's pop, synthy pop stuff, but it's like sad, and the lyrics are very earnest, I feel. So, Porches, yeah.
Okay.
It's cool. I saw them live, and they were incredible.
Is there a recent album that we should check out, or in particular, or? The
last two are good. It's so the cover is.
It's okay.
House, I think House, and then
that works with Porches.
Yeah, the House, and then there's one with like the cover is like white, and there's like a pink graphic on it. I forgot.
Okay.
So there's that. I've been really into them. This band called Pine Grove. This song called Aphasia that made me forget about. I was having a conversation with someone, and then I just stopped because I was like, no, I'd rather listen to this right now. So I like listened to it. It's just like, God, there's like a really janky solo in it. It's like, yeah, it's very emotional, heartfelt music as well.
Pine Grove,
yeah.
That's cool.
And then I've been listening to let me think, a lot of like soundtrack stuff. Like, I recently saw Olafur Arnalds live. Fucking best concert of my life. Oh my gosh, he is so good. Him and Oscar were the two best concerts of my freaking life, and they're both Icelandic composers.
Cool.
And Olafur does a lot of music for like movies and stuff, and then yeah, it was just heartfelt stuff with a lot of space. It's funny because I think I'm a very busy person with the way I write. Like, it's all like like very detailed, and like there's a lot going on. And I think I listen to a lot of things that are actually quite minimal, and there's a lot of restraint there because I admire that. To me, it's like, holy shit, that's magic. How did you know to just like not play right there? Oh my gosh, that's so cool. And you can really hear all the textures, and it's like slow and nicely paced. Like, everything is just like sitting in that perfect realm. You know what I'm talking about?
I do, and I have a similar feeling around things, because when I pick up the guitar, I'm always I just like want to write metal riffs, and like and I want to try to be like technical at times, but like some of the better stuff has been whenever I had like a friend or a producer or a bandmate or somebody say, hey, that's really a great idea, but it's really busy. Can you like pull it back?
Yeah.
Can you simplify it? And so like it's been interesting in the writing process to try to like simplify and remove clutter.
Yeah.
But also I have this deep appreciation for sparse music.
Sparseness, yeah.
Yeah, because it's like this big wide open space. Like, how do you explain like the quality of like standing in a big wide open meadow? You know, like how do you you know, like it's like there's a feeling of like open and allowing, and like and when I delve into like the the player or composer's mindset, I just have the same question, like, how do they know to not do most things?
Yeah.
And then, like, just do these 3 things.
Yeah.
So artful, so carefully.
It is.
That's amazing.
The paradox there is some of the most stimulating things have been the most sparse things for me. You think, like, oh my god, like, so much, like, noise, so much going on, that's going to be very stimulating. But it ends up just being a wall of noise and you don't appreciate anything, you know?
Mm-hmm.
You don't, it just all is the same. But it's like you have sparseness, then it's like, it makes you really listen to every note. And, like, you're, like, waiting for what's coming next. And, like, yeah, and I guess, like, I've been just curious about minimalism in general, because I think it's really nice to be concise sometimes and not overdo things. I struggle with it. It's my biggest weakness, is knowing when to be minimal and when to, like, hold back. One of the cool things about pivoting my Instagram guitar career, no, I'm just kidding. No, my Instagram guitar thing is, I started out posting, like, this is a tappy big riff, or like busy riff. Look at my fingies go. Like,
yeah. My fingies are going so fast. Try to keep up visually, you can't. They're so fast. No, like, you know, I've started out doing that, and like I think like it did well. But then I started doing more like pedal reviews and pedal like demos, and like talking about like tone and like why I like certain things. And then it made me start posting things that are like really like less busy and more about like just having quality tone or having interesting textures or having a really compelling melody, which I think speaks volumes above everything else. Like, agreed.
Yeah, a good melody doesn't matter if it's 2 notes, doesn't matter if it's like 12 notes or whatever. Like,
so that has been the other revelation too in recent years, is like, can even if you get the rhythm or the, you know, the bass part of the music in there, and then just see how mellow, how laid back the melody can be over that. Can it, like, because sometimes the melody can be the big sparse thing while something else is busy underneath it, which I really love. I love that feeling, and especially even sometimes like in like, I was just listening to Soilwork on accident. I had it on, it came up in a playlist, and this song came up, like, I've never listened to this record, and then I'm like, oh, this one lead line kind of sounds like one of the new Polyphia songs, and so I was kind of like, I thought this was Polyphia, and then it jumps into this metal thing. I'm like, oh, this is not. Oh, it's Soilwork, and then they have this big, like, kind of heavy blast beat type thing where there's long held vocal melodies over the top, and it just feels like this wide open space that opens up. So it's kind of a reverse thing where, like, you know, like sometimes it's a simple rhythm and you got like a super cool, like, fast melody or whatever. But yeah,
and it's interesting with like melody, certain effects like just inspire different melodies for me. So one fun thing like I've been doing is like I've been playing with like, I don't know, different pedals, like an overdrive or like a modulated delay or like a chorus thing, and just like seeing what naturally I end up finding. And then I usually write stuff that really fits the sound, I feel. So that's kind of, it's a fun way to challenge me to like do something different too, is like just writing for the sound I hear or whatever mood or story I hear in my head.
That's awesome.
Oh yeah, I had 2 more bands.
Cool.
This one band I think you'd like, they're called Cloakroom.
Cloakroom, how do you spell that?
Just CLOAKROM.
Okay.
Cloakroom. I really like their tones and stuff. It's kind of like sludgy sounding, and it's like dark, really dark, and they do a lot of like minor second stuff that I like, the tension there. Yeah, they're really great. And then this other band I've been listening to for my whole life that I just always love, I always go back to, is this band called Mew. And they are a pop band, but they do stuff harmonically that's like so experimental and weird. They're from Denmark.
Mew? Like
Mew.
M-E-W? M-E-W, like kitty. Mew.
Yeah, Mew. I love them. They're so cool because they have like catchy riffs, but then they have like, they have this one song that's like a really cool syncopated like bass. I think it's on bass, or maybe it's on guitar. I can't tell. It's like affected. But it's like really, really like just groovy, and it's kind of swung and it's syncopated, and then it just makes you bob your head. But then there's this like complete atonal like key thing that comes in that makes no sense with it, but they make it work.
Wow.
And the purpose is to create like kind of like tension and chaos.
Yeah.
Only to have it resolve into like that same groove again. So it's like, I'm like,
love
that's
that.
so bold. I would never do that. I'm way too much of a coward to like try to put something that crazy there. Because then it's like, oh, it's not pleasing. It's not pretty. But
the release probably feels so good when you're, as a listener.
Yeah. And I
wonder what would sound like if you did do.
I want to try. I mean, with the new stuff I'm trying, it's just, it's like I have to force myself to be okay with it. Just like sometimes I have to force myself to not overwork something. Or to be like, hands off, not allowed to touch it anymore. Like.
Yeah. Knowing when to say when. Yeah, it's a big one.
Yeah. And what's cool about Mew is they're very popular. They get stuff like on the radio, and they like, do pretty big rooms when they tour. So
they'll be able to do that, and also like create music that is got this big tension in it that resolves, that you feels like something you kind of risky or dangerous, like in a way.
And they're so surprising too. Like they take risks, and thus it's surprising because you don't expect it to happen, but then they seamlessly pull off. It's like watching an ice skater do like crazy tricks in succession. You're like, what? Like, how did you do that? Like with such flow? Like, dang.
It's like magic a little bit.
Yeah, I look up to that a lot in that band. And I also really like that they combine a lot of visuals with their stuff. So it's like their live show is like projections. The main guy is also a visual artist, so he'll create his own, like, it's just a very visual audio focused experience where it's like everything's tied together and you're really immersed in what that band is trying to tell, or what story they tell. And they always have a signature sound too. It's not like they've released so many albums through the years, and it's not like, they change their sound completely. They do. It's different, but it's still them. Fun. You can still hear the little tricks that they do.
It's a reimagining of their own style each time type of thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like, it's still their voice, but they're just kind of experimenting with a different accent or something,
Cool. I don't know if I've ever asked you, but did you ever listen to or get into Don Caballero?
I love them.
Oh,
They're one of the first like math bands.
Okay, yeah.
Grungy
Seems like you would. Yeah, just when I think about your style and all that, like one of the first like mathy instrumental like avant-garde bands that I was like, they're doing kind of like things that Meshuggah does in some way, but like it doesn't sound like they do this, and they're really good at building these tensions too, like in a way that like either rhythmically or like atonally every once in a while underneath. But at one time they had like 3 different guitar players doing like different things, so
it's so wild. Yeah, they were like really active in the 90s, right?
Yeah,
I think that's super cool. That's I have like 2 of their records. I have the one with all the mushroom clouds.
Okay.
That record.
The one that I remember the most is What Burns Never Returns. That was like the one that kind of got me into. That was a little later. I think that might actually been on the resurgence, because they had like a whole career originally like in the late 90s, and then like they were gone and they started to come back like in the 2000s, and it was a little bit different lineup. It wasn't the exact same thing. But I think it was the drummer's band, if I remember correct. Like it was his project.
It's like a rhythmically focused.
And did you ever see him live?
No.
It was like
I wish.
one of the more interesting drummers. The drummer's snare is like down here, like almost on the floor, like type of thing. And it was like, but it looked like a really like ergonomic, like relaxed scenario for his left hand, like because he'd be like, but then like the snare, but the way he held it down here was just kind of like almost like he didn't care in a way. It was, but because his style almost feels sloppy anyway. Yeah. But it like on purpose, like sloppy, in that way. Like he was pretty tight, but
I wish I was a cool enough like adolescent child to go to a Don Cab.
I don't know if they're still around in any form anymore. I don't know if they're.
Yeah, I don't think they're releasing new music. But they were one of the first bands to like get me into the like kind of more compound meter stuff.
Cool.
So yeah.
Well, thanks for sharing your stories.
Yeah, no
number
worries.
one, and being so open and honest about so many things today.
Of course.
I appreciate it, and sharing about the new music and your journeys and all that stuff.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Yay. Players Pick Podcast, episode number 16. Yvette Young, Covet.
Doesn't use a pick. Poser.
Total poser. But we love her anyway.
We're like Players Poser podcast.
Yeah, this is the Players Poser podcast. All right. Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
No worries.
Players Pick Podcast, Picks and Perspective with Chris Johnson.